Tonight is Doug Greenhow. Doug was a chartered accountant for many years, has retired a little while ago, has a great deal of knowledge, and Doug also loves international students. So please give Doug your attention, and when he's done speaking, we'll have opportunity for a question and answer time as well.
All right, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me at the back? Great, well, good evening. My wife Linda's here. We've attended many of these focus dinners over the years, and I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to speak with you tonight about a topic that I think most of you, if not all of you, are going to find very relevant and practical at this time of year. We're going to be talking about taxes. I know it's maybe a little dry topic, but it's important. Linda and I attend North Park Church, which is just down the road from here, but we always enjoy coming up here to Stony Creek Church and engaging with the people here. And we hope that all of you know that you're always welcome to attend any of the services here on Sunday at Stony Creek or at our church at North Park. We love to have international students join us, and we have people at the church from all over the world, literally, all different cultural and faith backgrounds. So please feel welcome to come to our churches anytime you would like. Okay, Mike at the back's going to move the slides for me. I want to start off by just talking at a high level about Canada's system of government. We have 3 tiers or levels of government here in Canada. The first level is the federal government. That's Canada-wide. They look after things like our military, immigration, pensions, that kind of thing. Then we have provincial governments. So we're in the province of Ontario here. Our provincial governments look after things like education and healthcare. Then we have municipal governments. We're in the municipality of London here. That's our municipal government. They look after things like local roads, sewers, garbage collection, fire protection, those kinds of things. Who here, put up your hand if you think you could name all 4 of the people in that slide. Put up your hand. All 4. Not too many? Okay, let's go through them. Who's the guy in the middle? Right in the center there. Mark Carney, yeah, he's our Prime Minister for the federal government. Who's the guy right below Mark Carney? Josh Morgan. He is the mayor or the head of our local city government in London. The guy in the upper right corner, who's that? Okay, yeah, I heard a lot of Doug Ford. He's the premier of the Ontario government. And then I had to put in Mr. Trump here, Donald Trump. He's not part of our government, but he likes to troll Mark Carney and call him the governor of the 51st state of the US. And he's probably in the news more than all 3 of those other guys combined. Okay, next. Our government spend a lot of money. And consequently, we need to have a lot of different taxes to help pay for all of the spending of all of our governments. So as you can see on this slide, we've got a lot of different kinds of taxes. Some of them you may have never heard of. Some of them aren't totally visible. They might be buried in the cost of the products that you buy. But nevertheless, they're being paid by somebody. And kind of the sad part of it is that despite having so many taxes in this country, our governments still spend more money than they bring in taxes. So we end up having deficits, and then the government has to borrow the money to finance their deficits. And what's happening is a growing share of our budgets are just to service the debt. I'm going to focus tonight on just the very top category there, the personal income taxes, and how that affects you guys as international students. So next slide. Most of the taxes we have in Canada, personal, corporate income tax, and sales taxes, they're administered by this agency called Canada Revenue Agency, and you may hear the term CRA, so that's what it stands for, Canada Revenue Agency. They administer our tax system on behalf of both the federal and the provincial governments. Next slide. We have what we call a progressive system of income taxation here in Canada. So progressive taxation means higher percentage tax rates for people that have a high income and lower percentage tax rates for people with low income. It's considered a fair system and it's accepted by most Canadians. It's been this way for a long, long time. But as you can see from the chart there, the top 20% of income earners in Canada, so that's the far right bar, they pay over half of all the taxes in the country. The bottom 40%, so the left two bars, bottom 40% of income earners, they pay less than 10% of our total taxes. So that's what we mean by a progressive tax system. Now, next slide. The good news for you guys is most international students do not pay income tax. And instead, it's actually the opposite. The government is likely going to pay you benefits that you might be entitled to if you file a tax return. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about some of those benefits that you might qualify for. But for that reason, we strongly recommend that most, if not all of you, actually file a tax return even if you have zero income, because you may be entitled to some benefits. So next slide. Our income tax system is based on your residency status, not your immigration status. So you can be a Canadian resident for income tax purposes, even if you are not a PR or permanent resident. You can be a resident for tax purposes, so that's important to know. And if you are a resident of Canada for income tax purposes, then you need to report on your tax return any income that you earn in Canada from any source, including outside of Canada. So if you had a business or something or property outside of Canada, that has to be reported on your Canadian tax return as well. Next slide. So when are you considered a resident of Canada for tax purposes? These are the criteria. If you have what are called significant residential ties with Canada, or you don't have significant residential ties, but you've been in the country for more than 183 days in any calendar year, and you are not considered a resident of your home country that you came from because of a tax treaty between Canada and your home country. So those are the criteria. Now I can tell you that most international students are considered residents of Canada. My next 3 slides talk about the meaning of this term significant residential ties, and then I go through an example in the next slide. I'm not going to go into these slides in any detail just for the sake of time, but there are some instances where you might be considered not a resident of Canada and instead a resident of your home country. It's rare, but it can happen. So if you think you might be in that type of situation, so this slide says when you wouldn't be considered a resident. These slides are going to be available, I think, Stuart, on the website. You can go back and look at these slides or talk to somebody outside of this presentation and get more information on that. But let's assume, for the sake of this presentation, that you are a resident of Canada, okay? So next slide, Mike. And one more. Well, okay, so when should you file your tax return? The deadline to pay and file your taxes for 2025 is the end of April. That's the normal deadline, okay? Now, you can file your tax return after that date, and you will not be charged a penalty as long as you don't owe any taxes, but it will delay the payment of any benefits that you're entitled to from the government if you file late. On the right side of the screen there, I've just outlined what you need to know if you just arrived in Canada last year, so you're a first-year resident of Canada. You're going to have to report your worldwide income, first of all, from January 1st until the day you arrived in Canada. So outside of Canada, that income, you have to know what that is. Now, you're not going to pay tax on that in Canada, but it might affect your eligibility for certain benefits. Then any income that you earn from the day you arrive in Canada to December 31st, that's the income that you would report on your first year tax return. To file a tax return in Canada, you have to have a social insurance number, which most of you will have. But if you don't qualify for a social insurance number for some reason, then you can also apply for what's called an individual tax number, and that allows you to file a tax return. Okay, next slide. Now, what do you report on your tax return? I've kind of split it into 2 categories. There's, on the left side, things that are taxable that you must report, and then on the right side, certain things that are tax-free and you don't have to report. So on the taxable side, employment income. So if you have a job here in Canada, you're doing some tutoring, or you're working on or off campus, your employer will issue you what's called a T4, Statement of Remuneration Paid, which summarizes all of your income and deductions for the year. You'll need that slip. If you receive any tips or gratuities in your job, even if that's not reported by your employer on your T4 slip, you are supposed to claim that as income. Any profit after expenses from a self-employed business or contract income. So for example, if you were an Uber driver, that's considered self-employed. You have to report that on your tax return. And the other point I make there is you have to report your income from outside Canada as well. So if you have, again, a business or a piece of property outside Canada from your home country, a rental property, you have to report the income from that on your Canadian tax return. You report your worldwide income. If you're in that situation, by the way, I strongly recommend you get a reputable accountant to help you, because those situations can be very complex and you don't want to be trying to deal with that on your own. Okay, next slide. Will I pay tax? That's the question you're all going to want to know. And I already said most international students don't have to pay income tax. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, we have this thing called the basic personal amount. And that exempts the first roughly $16,000 of income from any tax. So if you make less than $16,000 of income in a year, your tax is for sure zero. And if you're a family, like a couple, married couple, you each get $16,000 basic personal amount. If your income's over that, there's other deductions and credits that you can claim that could reduce your income subject to tax. So things like donations, medical expenses, employment expenses, childcare expenses, tuition fees, which I'm going to talk about in a second. The point I make in the last point there is if you're working in a job and your employer is deducting or has deducted income tax from your paycheck at source, and you prepare your tax return and it ends up that you don't actually owe any income tax because of your deductions and income, you can apply to get a refund of those taxes that were withheld from your paycheck. All right, next slide. So tuition fees. Anybody that's an international student, you'll have tuition fees, of course, and they're large, I know. So what do you do with your tuition fees? As I mentioned earlier, you can use that as a tax deduction if your income's higher and that basic personal amount doesn't reduce your tax to zero. You can use your tuition fees to reduce your tax down to zero. And then here's the important part. Any excess fees that you have that you cannot use to reduce, or you don't need to reduce your tax to zero, you can accumulate those and carry them forward to a future year. And where that can become valuable is if, let's say you get your PR and you stay in Canada, you start working full time and you're subject to tax, you can take all of those tuition fees that you paid while you were an international student and use that as a deduction when you start working, which could result in, very large tax savings, and I've seen that. So it is important that you report your tuition fees on your tax return, even if your income is zero, so you can accumulate those fees for the future if you decide to stay in Canada. The form that you need to get from the university or college is called a T2202A, Tuition and Enrollment Certificate. So I think they're always available through the student portal, so that's where you get that slip, and you need to report that on your tax return. Next slide. So I said there are some benefits that the government will pay you that you might qualify, and there's 3 categories here that I've listed that may apply to some of you or all of you. The first one is called the Canada Groceries and Essentials Benefit. That's a bit of a mouthful, and this is brand new. I'm going to go over that in a minute. And it's replacing what was called the GST credit, which some of you may be familiar with and may be getting now. The next one is called the Ontario Trillium Benefit. I'll talk about that. And then the last one is the Canada and Ontario Child Benefits. So if you have a child here in Canada, you may qualify for child benefits. As I already mentioned, to qualify for these benefits, you have to be a resident of Canada for tax purposes. Most of you will be. And you have to file a tax return, even if your income is zero. The other thing I want to point out is these benefits are generally or primarily for people that have sort of low, medium income. middle class and lower income people. They're not intended for people with high income, so anyone with a high income would not receive any of these benefits. And the other point I'll make, because this applies to some of you, if you have a spouse that lives outside of Canada, you still have to report the amount of income your spouse is earning outside of Canada for purposes of calculating your entitlement to these benefits. And the reason for that is the government doesn't want to be paying these benefits to people that have high income, high family income, even if some of it's earned outside of Canada. All right, next slide. All right, this new one I mentioned, Canada Groceries and Essentials Benefit. That starts this July. And what the purpose of it is to help people with low and modest incomes to help offset the cost of groceries and other essentials. The government recognizes we've had a lot of inflation, food costs have gone up, so they've introduced this to kind of help you offset some of those additional costs. It's paid quarterly, every 3 months. The next payment is April. The one that's coming in April is still the old GST credit. So there's going to be one more payment of the GST credit. Then they're doing this one-time top-up payment this spring. They haven't said exactly when they're sending out, but it'll be probably May or June. It's a one-time payment up to $267 for a single person, $533 for a couple. Oh, thank you. And then starting in July, this benefit will get paid again every 3 months. If your income is over $43,000 to $56,000, depending on your family income and situation, it'll get clawed back or phased out. But what you can, if your incomes are below that, what you can expect to get is about $170 every 3 months if you're single, about $222 for a couple, and then in addition to that, another $59 per quarter for any children that you have. At the very bottom there, I don't know if you can read it, but if you're new to Canada, a newcomer, and you're here first year, and you want to start receiving this benefit, you need to complete this form, RC 151, to apply for the credit. All right, next slide. All right, the Ontario Trillium Benefit. This is designed to partially offset the costs of rent and utilities. That's what it's supposed to do. Again, it's for lower income people. Most of you would qualify for this, I think. The amount of the benefit is based on the rent that you pay. So be sure to get a receipt from your landlord showing the amount of rent that you paid in the year. If you're a student and you're, say, living with 4 other students and each person's paying like 1/5 of the rent, then what you would claim is your 1/5 share. And then you report that on your tax return, you apply for this benefit. It's paid monthly. The amount that you get, or sorry, with your 2025 tax return, that will determine how much you get starting this July all the way through till June of 2027. So there's always a bit of a lag there. Okay, and then just to give you an idea how much it might be, if you're, that's in the bottom right corner, if you're single and if your rent was, say, $1,500 a month throughout 2025 and your income was under $30,000 a year, you're going to get a monthly benefit of around $90. It's not a huge amount. If you're a family with children or married, it's a little bit more than that. Okay? All right, next slide. This last one is the Canada and Ontario child benefits. Again, this is if you have children here in Canada that you're caring for. International students can qualify for these benefits if you meet all of the criteria there on the slide. So you're a temporary resident with a valid permit. This is the key one. You've been living in Canada for at least 18 months in a row. So you don't get this benefit immediately when you come to Canada, but if you've stayed for at least 18 months, then you can qualify for it. And then again, at the bottom there, you have to be a resident of Canada for tax purposes, which again, most of you will be. Next slide. How do you apply for this benefit? That's on the left side there. So if you had a child that's born in Canada, there's what's called an automated benefits application. So that's a service you apply for when your child is born here in Canada. There's an online thing called My Account with CRA that you can apply through. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Or you can complete this form RC66 to apply for those benefits. And I like to tell people to apply well in advance because it takes a while for the government to process this stuff. So don't wait, until 18 months have gone by. You should apply a little earlier than that. And then how much can you expect to get? These benefits are actually quite generous. So it's going to depend on your family income and the number of children you have and how old they are. For children under 6, you can get up to about $800 a month per child. If they're between 6 and 17, the benefit's about $700 a month. If you have a disabled child, there's extra. And then if your income's over $27,000, and these benefits are phased out. So again, people with high income don't receive these. CRA has this online tool to show you how much you'd qualify for. It's something you can just go on their website, and I've got the link there, and you can find out exactly how much you get in your specific circumstances. Next slide. CRA also has this useful online tool called Benefits Finder. And that you can go to and you can enter in sort of all of your personal information, and it'll tell you, you don't have to give them your name, you just put in all your factual information, and it will tell you what benefits you would qualify for, including all the ones I've talked about tonight and some other ones, and how much you could expect to get. So that's a handy little online tool to be aware of. Next slide. I strongly recommend that you set up direct deposit with CRA, so that enables them to deposit the benefits directly into your bank account. You don't have to deal with checks. The way you sign up for that is you can do it online through your banking app. There's a way to set it up there, or with this CRA My Account, which I'm going to talk about next. Okay, next slide. So as I mentioned, CRA has this handy service called My Account. Once you've filed your taxes for the first time and CRA has processed your return and assessed it, you can register for this service. And it's kind of like your banking app. It's a secure portal. So very similar to your banking app where you can go in and get all your banking information. This is a thing you can go in and you can view and manage all of your tax and benefit affairs. So you can see what your tax refund is going to be. You can see all of your past returns. You can see what benefits you're entitled to. all of that, any mail that you get from CRA. So I strongly recommend that you consider setting that up. Okay, next slide. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about, and it just talks about where can you get help to get your tax return completed. How do you go about actually filing a tax return here? Your first option is you can do your taxes yourself if you want to. And there's all kinds of software programs that are out there and available that are certified by the government. Some of them are actually free if you qualify. One of the most popular is called TurboTax, but there's all kinds of programs out there. You can do your returns yourself, or a friend can help you, and then you can file them directly to CRA online using this service they call NetFile. So that's one option you have if you're brave enough to do it yourself. Both Fanshawe and Western have tax clinics that they run, and I've put in the links to their websites there. Western has a bunch of information about taxes for international students, so that's something, and it's running this month and next month. They do them in March and April. So that's an option for you. There are community volunteer income tax clinics. I'm going to talk about that in the last slide next. That's a free service that's provided by volunteers at different locations throughout the city. And then finally, there are numerous businesses and individuals that will prepare your tax return for a fee. That's their business. I was an accountant for 40 years. I did taxes for people my whole career. I worked mainly with business people, but there's lots of firms out there that do taxes. And I do strongly recommend you get an accountant, even if you have to pay for it, if you have a complex tax situation, as I mentioned earlier. So if you have a rental property or a business or property or income in the country that you came from, don't try to do that yourself or through a volunteer. You need to get paid help for that, because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you don't do it properly. Almost all tax returns in Canada are filed electronically. You don't send in the receipts with your tax return, so you just file it online. The government processes it, assuming all of your input is correct. You have to keep those receipts, so like your rent receipt, your tuition, your T4, all of that, and the government can ask for it later. It's really important that you don't overlook filing things or put in wrong numbers or lie on your tax return, because the penalties for doing that kind of thing are very serious. So you want to be honest about your taxes. And like I said, the government can come back and audit you later at any time, so just be aware of that. After you've submitted your taxes, CRA issues you, and they've processed it, they issue what they call a notice of assessment. That just kind of confirms that they agree with your calculations. And then they'll also issue you separate notices for any benefits that you're entitled to. If you have a spouse or you're in a common law relationship, you don't file your taxes, like you don't file a single return for both spouses. You still file separately, but a lot of these benefits and deductions are affected by the income of your combined income of both spouses. So it's important to prepare and submit your taxes sort of at the same time, because there's a lot of interconnectedness to the returns. Okay, last slide. I just thought I'd list some of the free income tax clinics here in London. Now, that's just a partial list. There's other ones. if your income is less than $40,000 if you're single, or $55,000 for a couple, and it's a relatively simple return, so you don't have any complicated things like significant investment income or rental income, foreign income, that kind of thing, then you can go to one of these free clinics and they'll do your tax return. I personally had volunteered. The second one, you probably can't read it, the second one listed there, it's Hillside. That's another church in London, and I volunteer at that one on Thursday, so I was just there yesterday. So a lot of international students come in and get their taxes done at these clinics, so that's another option you have. All right, that's all I had to say to you guys. Thank you very much, and if we have time for questions, I can field some questions.
I have a question. Here we go.
In terms of my rent, if I don't have the receipt, but I can prove that I actually paid the rent, it's okay, right?
Yeah, the question is, if you don't have an actual receipt for your rent, but you can prove you paid it, you know you paid it, can you claim it? The answer is yes, I would claim it. Now, the government could come back and ask for proof that you paid that rent, at which time you could go and try to get a receipt from your landlord, or you might be able to provide, checks or something from your bank statement. You would have to prove that you paid that rent if the government audited you. There's also a good chance they may never look at it, they may not audit you, so I would claim it, but.
No, it's just like there are some landlords that I'm at odds with, so.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Anybody else? Oh, here, just a second. Let me bring Gordon.
Hey, Gordon.
Can international students claim their travel to Canada as a moving expense against any income they might have?
No, the question is, can international students claim their moving expenses, so the cost you incurred to get here in Canada? The answer is no, unfortunately. If you move between jobs, like if you had to move to another city in Canada for a job, they do allow you to deduct your moving costs in that situation. So there are cases where you can deduct moving expenses, but not to immigrate to Canada. Yes?
Hi, Doc. I have actually several questions, not just one.
I'll let you ask one, and then you can ask me afterwards, okay?
Okay, so for the T2202, it's not issued to every student. For example, ESL students are not issued this document. Is there any replacement, or is it gonna affect them?
Which program?
ESL.
ESL. Yeah, there are certain criteria that, the question is, certain programs don't issue you a T2202. It has to be like an accredited program for a certain length of time that's leading to a degree of some kind. So ESL, I think you're right, it does not qualify as an eligible tuition fee. But any sort of main program at Western or Fanshawe will qualify, but ESL is probably one, you're right, that does not qualify. So that's a good question.
Yeah, and can I claim the tuition that I paid? Can I provide like the receipts?
For the ESL?
Yeah, the program, yeah.
No, it has, if you don't have a T2202 to support the tuition fees, you cannot claim it. You have to have that form in order for it to be eligible. So the educational institution will determine if they're eligible or not. Okay?
Okay. Just one more question.
Okay, a quick one.
Okay. According to the other guy about rent, is it necessary to have like a specific receipt that has all the months you paid, or just like have the receipt of each month you have paid?
The best way to do it is actually get a receipt from your landlord, signed by your landlord with their name on it, saying this is to certify, you know, you paid X dollars of rent last year. If you can't get that for some reason, every landlord should be willing to issue you that. If you can't get it for some reason, yes, you still claim it, but keep your checks or bank statements or something to prove, or at least something to prove the rent that you paid, okay?
Okay, because this question, because I don't have a landlord, it's a management.
A management company?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. You can get a receipt from them as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I still have more, but I'll leave it.
okay. You can talk to me after if you got more questions.
Anybody else have a question?
How many people have actually filed a tax return in Canada before? Lots of people haven't done it yet, maybe, so.
So, one thing I thought I'd mention as well, at this time of year, one of the common scams that are around is you may get email saying that this is Revenue Canada, CRA, and if you don't pay us money right away today, we're going to, deport you from the country. Revenue Canada wouldn't do that. They may call on your phone. You may get a text reporting. Don't ever respond to any of those. Now, Doug said it's a good idea to sign up for your MyCRA account. I would recommend that every single one of you get your MyCRA account. Several reasons. One, if you get an email that purports to be from Revenue Canada, don't click on anything in that email. Go to your MyCRA account and check your mail there to see if they've really sent you something. Okay, Doug also mentioned that just about all tax returns are submitted electronically with using that file. When you do that, you have to supply an email address. And when you supply an email address, they will only notify you via email, but you have to go to your MyCRA to actually get that. So that's important. This happened to me several years ago. As it was noted earlier, I just had a birthday, so I'm old. It used to be we didn't have email. Revenue Canada would always send you a letter. And even though I was signed up for NetFile, it used to be if Revenue Canada had something to tell me, they'd send me an email, or a letter rather. Well, several years ago, there was emails coming in from CRA. I ignore them because they're usually spam. Okay, I didn't think anything of it. Then I saw one and thought, I better check. I went to my CRA account, and they had decided to do, Doug could tell us what the type of audit is, but they wanted me to send in my charitable receipts. And I had missed it, so they denied all my charitable receipts. Then they have a bill, and I owe thousands of dollars of tax. So right away I sent them in my charitable receipts, and again, you do that through the MyCRA portal. But it took them, I think, 8 months to give me my money back. So it's really important to sign up for a MyCRA portal profile so that you can get that information.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good service, and you'll get a notification if there's any mail for you to read. Which is important. Like if they're going to ask for, say, your rent receipt, they usually only give you 30 days to reply to supply the information they ask for, and if you miss the deadline, they just deny the deduction, and then they'll start asking you for the money back. So, yeah.
Just one funny story too. Our son, who's a fine young guy, but being a young guy, he can be a little brash. And he got several years ago, got a phone call, supposedly from CRA. You owe us money. If you don't send us money today, we're going to send the police to arrest you. So he said, well, you better send the police because I don't have any money I'm going to give you, because it was obviously a scam. So be very careful, scams. Scams and frauds was last time's focus, but be aware of that, especially for somebody who's claiming to be Revenue Canada.
Yeah, often when you go on the CRA website, the first thing you'll see is their warnings about the latest scam out there. Yeah. So, yeah, Stuart's right. You do have to be careful.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And I mean, if you ever get something like that and you wonder if it might be real, don't respond right away. Get a hold of me and say, does this sound reasonable?
Yeah.
So, Erica.
Yeah, I just want to say that I got that same call that I think your son got, and I was pregnant, and I was just believing everything. I was so scared they were going to send the police over. I was saying, I have a son here, don't send the police. And finally, they were asking for my visa. I'm like, okay, that's weird. So they said, don't hang up, right? So it's very easy to fall for this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, those people are slime balls. Anyhow. Anybody else have a question? Over here.
I have been here for 4 months now, so I just want to ask, should I fill test this year or the next year?
You've been here for 4 months, you said, so you arrived in December? No, November? Yes, you should file a tax return. Even if your income was zero, and the reason you want to do that is so that you can qualify for these different benefits. Again, assuming you're a resident of Canada for tax I don't know all your personal situation.
But she just arrived in November of 2025, so would she be a resident for tax purposes in
Yes.
2025?
Yeah, you can, even if you're only here for a week,
Yeah.
you could be considered a resident for that 1 week period. You still want to file the tax return because it'll start the process of qualifying for these benefits. Yes.
Now, the other thing I wanted to mention as well that occurred to me the first time Doug gave this presentation is that, you know, for many of you, I know you hope to get PR and stay in Canada. We hope you're successful. We need you here in Canada. But we know that your international tuition payments are very expensive. But it's kind of like you get revenge because when you eventually get a job and you're earning a higher income, you can claim those credits if you file your tax returns now. So you can get at least some return. It's not like you get all of your tuition back, but you do get some of it back that way.
Yeah, it's worth about 20 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely worth accumulating.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think they want dessert now.
Yeah. Okay, well,
They're done with me.
Yeah, thank you very kindly, Doug, for
Okay, thank you.
your presentation. And I will post this on our Facebook group. So I'll just ask Mike if he could throw it on my key there, and I'll post it in our Facebook group either tonight or tomorrow. And you can go on. I'll post it as a PDF, and you can go on and get that. So without further ado, we can get dessert. So you can head out this doorway here, go up the hall, get your dessert, come back in. If you get a few varieties